Alright, well, I am pretty far behind on a lot of this, but I still want to talk about the game where Steph Curry got hurt. Also, the blackout game of the at the Spurs in Memphis, and also a little bit about the Chris Paul and Blake Griffin injuries. I didn't even know about Blake Griffin when I wrote this in here, but anyway, the Steph Curry when he got injured, there's just some interesting things. So when the game got over, one of the big deals in the media was that an interviewer asked Draymond Green about the Houston floods, and Draymond Green got all mad. And basically, the interviewer guy was insinuating that they rain threes, and then it's Houston and whatnot, and Draymond Green supposedly mad. But it's just kind of funny because Steph Curry got injured because he fell on a wet spot. I mean, also, somebody pointed out to me that Steph Curry's in this Brita water commercial or whatever, where he's made of water and whatever, rains threes. He's also a splash brother. It's just kind of interesting that he gets hurt, and then they make a big deal about the Houston floods. I mean, just kind of funny. Also, in this game, in regards to raining threes, they set the new NBA playoff record for threes made in a game with 21. The Cavs had just set the record, and then Golden State comes back and breaks the record, and they didn't even have Steph Curry for the second half or whatever, the guy who makes most of the threes. So, interesting. Also want to point out the word 3 equals 56, a number that I mention a lot, at least since the Paris attacks. So also, in regards to the 3 being 56, the halftime score was 56-56, and Curry got hurt right before halftime. What's interesting to me is that they stopped the clock with 4.4 after Iguodala makes the score 56-56. Iguodala even falls down and lays there, and they kind of focus in on that, and then they go down, and can't even think of the guy's name, the Montejunas, he falls, then Curry falls, and whatnot. There's a lot of falling, and I'll talk about that in a second, but there's a lot of 44 around the Warriors, so there's no doubt in my mind somehow they had to stop the clock exactly at 4.4 just for it to be noticed. 44 a lot of times is around death and bad things. And the Warriors are in their 44th season in Golden State. They broke the Chicago Bulls' 44 home game win streak this year. Steve Kerr came back to coach on the 44th game of the season. They were chasing the 33-game win streak of the Los Angeles Lakers early in the season. It was a record from 44 years ago when Jerry West was on the team. Jerry West in Gematria equals 44. He even wore the number 44. Also, I saw this. Curry has made a three-pointer in 42 straight playoff games, which is the second in NBA history behind 44 by Reggie Miller. So when Curry comes back, he's most likely going to beat Reggie Miller's 44-game playoff streak with a three-pointer. So who knows? So Montejunas, or however you say that, he slips and falls, and then Curry comes down and slips and falls, pretty much in the same spot that he did. But the reason this falling stuff I'm talking about is last year, throughout the summer, and especially in the month of August, there was a whole bunch of stories that involved falling. Can't even remember it all. There was an actor who fell off the building or something. There was a drone that fell into the tennis game. Even like Dave Grohl fell off the stage and broke his leg, and that's why Kanye West sang at Glastonbury, and he sang the Queen song, the Freddie Mercury song. I even talked about how it ties into the Paris attacks and whatnot. And I'll leave a link to my Kanye playlist if you want to watch that. There's a lot of information, but there's a lot of falling stuff. And September 23rd was a super significant day. Pope Francis came to the White House on his 923rd day as Pope. He went to the White House on this day at exactly 9:23 in the morning on 9:23. 9/23 was the first day of fall last year as well. And there's more to this as well, but I just want to keep moving on. The first thing that I noticed though, this guy's number 20, he falls. Steph Curry's number 30, and Steph Curry falls because he's trying to guard Ariza. Ariza's number 1, so if you total that up, it's 51. The Cleveland Cavaliers are all about the number 51. Cleveland equals 51. LeBron James equals 51. Cleveland Cavs equals 51. They play in Quicken Loans Arena. Quicken Loans equals 51. Cleveland hasn't even won a sports championship for 51 years. So just kind of interesting, these 3 players involved in the falling down here where Curry gets hurt adds up to 51. Also, as for Andre Iguodala falling, Andre Iguodala equals 112 in Gematria. If you write out Steph Curry's real name, Wardell Stephen Curry II, it also equals 112. Houston equals 112 in Gematria. And look at the score, 56 to 56. If you add that up, it's a total score of 112. The Warriors all about the Chicago Bulls and breaking the Chicago Bulls stuff this year. Chicago Bulls equals 112. The date was on 4/24. If you write out 424, it equals 112. There's a lot of interesting 112s I could go on about in other events. Sandy Hook equals 112. 112 is the emergency dialing code in a lot of other countries. It's 112 instead of 911. It also reminds me a lot of November 2nd, 11/2. And that reminds me of the death of Prince. Prince died on the 112th day of the year. The Simpsons episode that killed Prince came out on November 2nd, 11/2. Also, you had the death of Patton Oswalt's wife or whatever. She died the same day as Prince. It was also Queen Elizabeth's 90th birthday. But they made sure to let you know she was a true crime writer. True crime equals 112. Just lots of 112 and a lot of stories recently. Also, November 2nd reminds me that LeBron James, he shot 9 of 19 on that day. And he hasn't done it in any other game except for the game on 4/24 when they beat the Pistons. So LeBron 9 of 19. It's also interesting they played Philadelphia that day. Philadelphia has been a huge topic in the last couple of years. I don't know, they've been just code Philadelphia to almost everything. Pope Francis did go to his last place that he visited in the United States was Philadelphia. Anyway, look at this day here. If you go from 11/2 to 4/24 when Steph Curry got hurt, a span of 174 days. Right knee sprain in Gematria equals 174. They came out and said it was a grade 1 MCL sprain that equals 174. Also want to point out grade 1 equals 69, just like Cleveland Cavaliers the small way, just like if you write out the words back to back. There's been a huge back-to-back theme, too. If you listen to all of the games after the All-Star week, they say back-to-back in like multiple times of the games. This then was even back-to-back injuries for Curry as he got hurt on April 16th, and then he came back. This was his first game back, and then he got hurt again. So back-to-back injuries even. Tons of back-to-back. Anyway, Curry only played 18 minutes in this game. If you write out 18 minutes, it equals 174. If you write out 174, it equals 107. And I've been talking a lot about if Queen Elizabeth dies, then her son Prince Charles will become the new king. King Charles equals 107. Cavaliers were followers of King Charles I in the English Civil War. Also, the word earthquake equals 107. There's been lots of earthquakes that have magnitudes that match up to the date numerologies, and also they're on days that I know they're tributes to the royal family and whatnot. I've made previous posts on that as well. The word championship equals 131 in Gematria. If you write out 131, it equals 107. Also in this game, the Cavaliers, on 11-2, the Cavaliers defeated Philadelphia, and they scored 107 points. So it was 107-100. So Curry supposedly will be back in 2 weeks. I wrote, if they make it that far, I think that this is just part of the people getting off the Warriors bandwagon, though. Maybe they'll just lose, but I'm thinking it's the other way around. And then they did come back out and they beat Houston by 33. So who knows? We'll see who they play, if they're going to play the Clippers and whatnot, or if they're going to play Portland. It looks like they're probably going to play Portland. Also, Chris Paul broke his hand. Broke right hand is how they reported it on the TV. Broke right hand equals 404 in Jewish Gematria. Super interesting because Pope Francis equals 404. Queen Camilla, which is Prince Charles' wife, equals 404. Prince Charles equals 404. So interesting they would report it as broke right hand. Chris Paul also equals 44, 53, and 107. King Charles equals 53 and 107. Earthquake equals 44 and 107. If you write out Clippers, Clippers also equals 44. I also think that it would be more fitting for the Warriors to play Portland. There's been a lot of Portland connections to the Warriors this year. Portland is the team who dropped Anderson Varejao, and then the Warriors picked him up on 2/22, and that was 3 days after Portland had beat the Warriors on 2/19 by 33 points. And then the Warriors don't have Steph Curry, and they come out and they beat Houston by 33 points the other night. What's interesting, though, is that they lost on 2/19. Back-to-back championships equals 219 in Gematria. Also, Varejao, when Varejao got picked up, he's wearing number 18 now. And they played Portland again 18 days after picking him up on March 11th, 3/11, which was 2 months and 22 days before the NBA Finals begin. And they picked him up on 2/22. And then we had all the Amtrak derailments and whatnot. Amtrak equals 222 in Gematria. And last year, the Philadelphia Amtrak derailment, the one that was at 9/23, that one was super connected to the NBA Finals. LeBron James in Jewish Gematria even equals 923. He was in the movie Trainwreck that came out 66 days after that Philadelphia Trainwreck. 66, LeBron equals 66. Even Pope Francis equals 122 in Gematria. Just like if you write out Trainwreck. In that movie, Amy Schumer's character was 9 years old in the opening scene, and then the rest of the movie took place 23 years later, the 923 stuff. So once again, pointing out the significance of the 923. Interesting too, Curry got hurt after playing 18 minutes. Varejao wears number 18. They played his former team again 18 days later. Varejao, though, also known mostly for being a Cleveland Cavalier for pretty much his whole career. So my guess the other day was that they're going to play Portland, and the first game will be on 5/1. Because it's 51 days after the 3/11 when Varejao played his former team. Like I said, it's 2 months, 22 days before the finals. 2/22 was also 3 months, 11 days before the finals. When Portland beat the Warriors by 33 on 2/19, Damian Lillard scored 51 points in that game. Also on that same day that Curry got hurt, we got the blackout at the Memphis game, or the Grizzlies versus the Spurs game. When the power went out, the banner stayed on, though, and it says Sirius XM NBA Radio, and it has it on there twice. If you write out Sirius XM NBA Radio, it equals 79 in Gematria, which is interesting. LeBron James, his full name, LeBron Ramon James, equals 79. Pope Francis turned 79 in December. A lot more 79s, but if you write it out 2 times, it equals 174. just like all these 174s that I just talked about up here. Also interesting, if you write out the word 174, 174 equals 107, just like King Charles, just like Earthquake, just like what I'm talking about, you know? So, want to point that out really quick. In this game, though, it says the power went out for 18 minutes. Remember, Steph Curry played 18 minutes. The power went out for 18 minutes. All the 18s around Anderson Varejao. If you write out the word 18, 18 also has some interesting gematria in regards to how they're connected to Chicago. 18 equals 46 and 73. The Warriors were chasing the Chicago Bulls' 72-game win streak that they beat, getting 73 wins. Chicago in gematria equals 46. And the Super Bowl was also connected to Chicago, the 85 Bears. And literally, the Royals won the World Series. They hadn't won since 1985. Villanova hadn't won since 1985. There's like a weird Back to the Future connection as well. The Chicago Cubs that were supposed to win the World Series in 2015, they even lost on Back to the Future Day. That's when they got knocked out. I mean, give me a break. The Chicago Bears won Super Bowl 20. They won it scoring 46 points, and they were using the then revolutionary 4-6 defense. Anyway, if you read out 18 minutes, 174. It says the power went out with 10:02 left in the second quarter. 10 minutes, 2 seconds equals 79, just like Sirius XM NBA radio, just like LeBron James' full name, just like the age Pope Francis just turned in December. That means the power went out with 1:58 into the second quarter. If you write out Sirius XM NBA radio, Sirius XM NBA radio, the small way it equals 158. If you write out 158, it equals 223. Just like the synagogue of Satan, just like the word Masonic. The score, when the power was out, was 25-23, which totals up to 48. The 48th prime is even 223. Interesting too, Oklahoma City Thunder equal 223, and the Spurs are going to play the Oklahoma City Thunder. It also reminds me of the Rockets-Warriors game where there was the power outage, and then the screen even turned green later in that game. And the total score when the screen turned green was 90-68, which totals up to 158 as well. Although the score was 92-68, they just had not changed it yet. Interesting, 92, if you write out Warriors win back-to-back, it equals 92. But them leaving it up here with the 90 makes me wonder if it was a tribute to Queen Elizabeth's 90th birthday that was coming up after this game. You know, they were even winning by, 22 points? The 22nd prime is 79. Also interesting, the 68 that Houston has. Barack Obama equals 68. Pope Francis equals 68. Prince Charles equals 68 the small way. Donald John Trump equals 68. Lots of 68. Also, in regards to the green screen, when the power went out on this Spurs Grizzly game, they had a stat up here with J. Michael Green. I just thought that was pretty interesting. It was green. Green equals 49 in Gematria, just like Revelation, just like Warriors the small way. J. Michael Green equals 122. He even signed a rest of the year contract with the Grizzlies 1 month and 22 days before this game. And then literally Pope Francis equals 122. Golden State equals 122. San Antonio equals 122 at Gematria. I also find it weird that they reported that it went out with 10:02, but yeah, obviously it was 10:03. They even, like, in the clip on ESPN, they even showed this. It still says 10:03 up here. It says 10:03 on my TV. So, makes me wonder why they reported it 10:02 pretty much everywhere. Or at least all of the big places, ESPN and whatnot. That would make it a minute 57 into the second quarter, or also 117 seconds, and they blamed it on a county-wide drop in voltage that equals 117 in Gematria. It even says that play resumed at 1:57 p.m., so I'm not sure exactly what the point of reporting it like at 10:02 was, but wanted to point it out that it obviously was 10:03. If you write out 157, it equals 239 and also 104. We're in the 239th year of the United States. 219, the day I talked about with the Portland Trailblazers and back-to-back NBA championships, was 104 days before the finals began. But also, if you write out 104, it equals 168, just like Cleveland Cavaliers. Just like Queen Elizabeth II. It would also leave, if it was at 1:57 into the second, that would have left 34 minutes, 3 seconds into the game, a lot like 3:43. The 343rd prime is 23:09, a lot like 239. When Curry was hurt, it was 56 to 56. If you write out 56, it equals 118 in Gematria. The Warriors also made 21 3-point shots to set the record. 21 3-point shots equals 118. 118, January 18th, was the day the Warriors beat the Cavs by 34 points. It was 34 games after LeBron shot 9 of 23. LeBron was also 9 of 23 one other time this year. It was on February 5th, which is 118 days before the NBA Finals. If LeBron wins the NBA Finals this year, he'll be 3-4 in the NBA Finals, but if he loses, he'll be 2-5. So, interesting. The Spurs Blackout game was also 39 days before the NBA Finals. Spurs equals 39 in Gematria. They also equal 21. Leonard had 21 points, and they won by 21 points. The total score was 116 to 95, which is 211. LeBron James shot 9 of 23 for the first time this year on 11-4, which was 211 days before the finals began. Also, 211, November 11th can also be written as 11-2 or 2/11. In Europe, they write it that way. So interesting, a 211, talking about how LeBron James shot 9 of 19 on that day as well. The 157th prime is 919. Kawhi Leonard equals 58, 67, and 121. Warriors equals 49, 58, and 121. Revelation equals 49, 67, and 121. Also interesting, the Spurs had 116 points, and it was 39 days after Obama nominated Merrick Garland. There was a big judge theme that I have talked about since clear back in November. We had the death of Antonin Scalia on the 44th day of the year with a date numerology of 51. Antonin Scalia equals 51. In November on 11/6, there was a Judge Julie Kokorek in Texas who was shot outside of her home. Her name adds up to 51. She was shot 132 days before Obama nominated Merrick Garland. Antonin Scalia, the big way, equals 132. But when Obama nominated Merrick Garland, there was a lot of 116. I'm not going to pull it back up, but I think it was even at like 1:16 in the afternoon, or maybe it was 11:06 or something. There was a whole bunch of 116 that I had talked about with that. Also interesting, these two games, Curry got hurt, whatever. It was on 4/24, which is the 115th day of the year. 115 hasn't been good for the Warriors all season. They lost their first game of the season on 12/12 to the Bucks. It was 1 month, 15 days into the season. When they lost to Portland on 2/19, it was the 115th day of the season. And then Curry gets hurt on the 115th day of the year. Interesting, the Warriors also beat the Knicks on 131, and it had an identical score, 116 to 95, as the Spurs Grizzlies game on this day. Just sticks out a lot. It's January 31st, 131. Championship equals 131. Grizzlies equals 131. But remember, the Warriors got their 73rd win against the Grizzlies, making them 73-9. The 131st prime is 739. In this game, the Warriors also became 44-4. And we keep getting this commercial during all of the basketball games, the 444 news. It's the Wendy's commercial. I just keep seeing it a whole lot. I looked up this commercial. I was thinking it was a Burger King commercial. It's actually Wendy's. And when I looked up Burger King, Steph Curry's in a Burger King commercial when he was a little kid with his dad here. Just interesting. Burger King, 112. Wardell, Stephen Curry in the second, 112. So pretty fitting Steph Curry was on a Burger King commercial as a young kid. Also in regards to the 444, Pope Francis gave a speech using Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address lectern. It was exactly 4:44 in Independence Hall in Philadelphia. There was also a game, I remember, I think it was the Thunder game, where Curry made a significant three-pointer and they stopped the clock with 44.4. If you read out 444, it equals 1,649 in Jewish Gematria. That was the year that King Charles I was executed during the English Civil War. Remember, the Cavaliers are followers of King Charles I. Also interesting, since it was a Wendy's commercial, Wendy's equals 90, Thunder equals 90, Golden State Warriors equals 90, Cavaliers equal 90, Queen Elizabeth just turned 90, 90 equals 87, just like Queen Elizabeth II the small way. Also earlier in the year, the Spurs beat the Warriors 87-79 on the 79th day of the year. Easter was on the 87th day of the year this year. I made a whole video on that, so. Also interesting, if you go from that day when the Warriors became 44-4, it was 17 weeks, 4 days before the NBA Finals. So, just another 174. Interesting, Memphis has identical gematria to election. This is an election year. Lots of stuff going on in the media with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton and whatnot. Also, Kansas in Jewish gematria equals 232 as well. We had the Kansas train derailment. There's been a lot of stories with Kansas involved. You had the Kansas football player dying. I'm going to make a video on the Kansas motel shooting from the other day. The word Satan even equals 232 at Jewish gematria. ESPN even gave us this the other day. They have Draymond Green and Kawhi Leonard, 232. Also interesting in regards to Kawhi Leonard scoring 21 points and the Spurs won by 21. This is their logo, the Spurs, the U, the 21st letter even. So, whatever. Gonna leave it at that. Video's pretty long. Like I said, I got some other videos that kind of coincide with this one. Just wanted to make this one first. So, have a good one.